Well, good morning. Welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I'm Steve Smith, and how are you all today? It's a beautiful day, so I hope you're having a good one. I want to talk today about preparing positively, preparing for the best. Now, I don't mean preparing for the best of times. The best of times just kind of take care of themselves, don't they? But to be able to live the best during horrible times. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about today. Before we get there, as those of you who have been with us for quite a while know, I always have a couple of announcements to start off with. And if you're new to us, this is kind of a community here. I don't just jump on here and start yelling and screaming and trying to tell you that the world's going to end tomorrow from a different thing that it was supposed to end from yesterday and things like that. We try to approach things in kind of an even-handed way, and I value my viewers and my commenters very much, and we really have become part of a community. I want to start off here with, I got a couple of things. I received a very nice note. Excuse me. If that happens too often, I'll put it on pause. Very nice note from a viewer. I'm going to read part of his note here because it explains several things, and he sent me something that's very cool, and I want to say thank you to him. It starts off, Steve. He says a couple of nice things about me. I'll leave that out. This isn't about me. He says, I've been following you on YouTube and Patreon from the start. He's enclosed a check for the Blessings of Freedom, which is the fifth book of the Stonemont series. If you could autograph it, and then he told me how he'd like it autographed. Also included $20 for a green extra large Integrative Preparedness t-shirt. Yeah, we're getting those together. I am also including, and here comes the cool part, 2 Delaware DOC patches. Department of Corrections, Delaware. The black one is for the emergency response team. So cool, man. Let's see, I should have unbended that. And the colored one is the department patch. He says, I retired in 2021 after 28 years. Man, you guys, I don't know that I could do your job. Being on the same side of the bars for 28 years, that's something. I've had some good friends who were corrections officers, and you all are something, I tell you. And then he goes on, and so thank you so much for that. He goes on and he says, so he retired in 2021. After following you online, it feels like I know you. Hope to meet you someday. Well, I do too. And if not, on this side, definitely. And glory, may the Lord continue to bless you richly. And I won't say his name, but buddy, thank you so much. Thank you so much. The Lord has blessed me richly. He continues to, and I hope that he will bless you and yours richly too, as with all of our viewers. Thank you so much for that. For those of you who may not know, it's a thing in law enforcement and other places that have a patch board. I know I've explained this before, but since I'm talking about this, I'll say for any new people, to where people trade patches. And some time ago, I had somebody send me their department patch, and I thought, well, that is really cool. And I mentioned it, and then some other people started sending me patches, and we've got quite a few patches now. I've got to start looking for the board to start putting these up on, and I think I might need to get a bigger board than I had originally thought. I can't thank you enough, buddy. I can't thank you enough. And I'll be signing that book to you, getting that out, and then when the t-shirts are ready, I'll be getting that out to you as well. So thank you so much. The second thing is I had the pleasure last night of watching an exceptional video on another channel. It was Lee over at Cold War Prepper. Now, Lee is a retired military intelligence, Army, and he has a great channel. If you don't watch him, you should. He also comes at it from a very positive point of view, which I like, He doesn't use any bad language. I can tell he's a religious man. He ends each of his each of his videos with the benediction that I grew up with, and that sometimes I occasionally end with on the church channel. But he is a smart person. He does book reviews, and he does nonfiction book reviews and fiction. And for the last 5 months, he's been doing his monthly fiction review on my books, the Stonemont series. Just to let you know, that's them right there, the Stonemont series. He has done, by the way, Lee, I asked if you'd send me your address. I just checked my email. I got it. Thank you very much for my friend. And it'll be in the mail to you soon. Something funny happened. He said the first 4 books he bought, and they were just great. And then the 5th book that he covered last night, Amazon had not printed, or whoever they have do it, hadn't printed the first 15 pages in it. Anyway, I'm going to take care of that. But he has done a review of the Stonemont series, 1 a month for the last 5 months. I've been fortunate that I've been able to catch some of all of them, I think. Last night I was able to get on for the whole thing and watch it. And it was exceptional. It was exceptional. And Lee's viewers are great as well. You know, a writer hopes that his audience, and that's what I am. I'm a writer. A lot of people don't know that. You know, that's the only reason that I started this channel, was kind of to talk about my books, and then it just grew from there. A writer hopes that the reader will understand everything that he's trying to get at. But he also understands that very few people will get everything. And he only hopes that most people will get enough of it to make it worth their while and for them to enjoy the book. There's an old saying about writers. You know you're a writer when you get done with a book and you're just sure it's the worst thing that's ever been written. Well, I've never really felt that bad, but you always, you know, at the end, you get done, you say, man, I hope that I've gotten across what I'm trying to get across. And, you know, I've had so many people say, well, you know, it was my 3rd or 4th reading through the entire series that I keep coming up with stuff that I missed before. Well, I'll tell you what, Lee does not miss much. I was astounded when I watched his program last night at how much he got in the things that he picked out of it, and the things that I didn't think most people would catch. And sometimes, to be honest, I write it for my own enjoyment. I write these books also, because some people have asked, I write them as a letter to my children who aren't old enough yet to really enjoy reading something like this. But when Dad's, you know, long gone, these are kind of the lessons that I leave for them. Also in there are some memories, some special things that I will say. What do they call them? Easter eggs, things like that. Little things that actually, when they read them, they'll go, oh, he's talking about such and such, or I remember that, or something like that, or you don't get a laugh and get a lesson. So there's some of that in there, but I tend to write. I write in many layers. I don't answer the questions that come up right away. You know, I've had people say, I wrote in here, why did he do this? And then, you know, 80 pages later, oh, I see. So my books tend not to be too simplistic, and so I'm always, first off, should I say, I'm impressed, and then I'm gratified when people actually see the things that I'm saying in the books. So Lee, you did a fantastic job on that. And I can't tell you how happy I was that you were able to share all that with your people. And again, I want to suggest here, if you're not after the doom porn, now if you're just waiting for somebody to tell you how horrible things are, you know, my channel's not right for you, and neither is his. But you should go over there and check Lee at Cold War Prepper, and sign up with him. Subscribe to him. You will be glad you did. Now, let's get back to, we will get to the message of the day, as it were, and that is positive prepping. I get tired, and it's not my place to make a judgment on this. Let me put it this way. I don't watch the things that are constantly trying to frighten me. Okay, I've been at this game too long. It's a way to make money. There's the old saying from the newspaper business: is if it bleeds, it leads. People love watching or reading about bad things happening to other people. It's a perverse part of the human nature, but that's the way it is. I heard somebody say, and they're probably right, that people feel good about it by saying, look, that's not happening to me. It's happening to somebody else, so good for me. Whatever it is, and I know it's big business, to try to come up with something, every day about how horrible things are. Now, I don't think some things are horrible in our world. Our government is horrible. Our economy is horrible. The corruption in our world is horrible. But my life isn't horrible, and I hope that yours isn't either. So the way that I try to approach this is positively. That's the reason. Let me get back here to the books. That's the reason that I started writing this series. I had read some books to where everything, post-apocalyptic books, and they were entertaining, but a lot of it was, people had not prepared, how horrible things are when people have not prepared, the suffering, everything like this, and certainly that's true, and I address that in here. But one of the reasons that I wrote this series, the cat's looking at something outside. One of the reasons that I wrote this series was to try to explain how life does not have to be horrible if you're prepared. And isn't that why we prepare? We don't prepare in order to suffer. Okay, and I know we prepare in order to survive, but survival can be suffering. It can be long-term suffering. And we don't want to do that. We want to try to enjoy life, have a good quality of life after or during a problem. Okay, it's like when the lights go out, a snowstorm or something like that. And some people, they're just gonna, sit around and be miserable, and other people are gonna, hey, let's bring in the candles and the heaters that we've learned how to make through preparedness, and let's seal off the windows with blankets, and let's all get together and play board games, and they can make it. They refuse to be victims to the situation. They adjust to it, they adapt, and then they continue a positive lifestyle through it. That's one of the tenets of integrative preparedness, is that I say, if and like Jim says in this, he said if the whole world fell apart, he didn't want to just survive. He didn't want to notice. Okay, one of the tenets of integrative preparedness is that everything we do should be geared to not just helping us in the future in the case of a catastrophe, but improving our life today. Okay, and I'll get back to that in a minute. I'm going to read maybe a paragraph or so. Excuse me just a second. I'm going to clear my throat so you don't have to hear it. Okay, I want to read a short passage from my first book, The Reversion. And it kind of addresses this. Where two people are talking. Jim Wyatt, the main character, the patriarch of the family of Stonemont, which becomes the larger community of Stonemont, and Bill, who he's a retired lawyer and judge. He and his wife came out from Ohio to bring their daughter back from KU. She just graduated from law school. They ran into some trouble on the highway with a bunch of thugs who were going to rape the women and kill them all, and then they were saved by Christian, who is Jim's nephew, and Mike, who is a friend of Christian's, as they hooked up along the way. That's just kind of the synopsis. So they have come, they've been welcomed to Stonemont, they've had a nice dinner, the Wyatts, because they prepared. They were able to to bring the outsiders in, the guests in, set them up, give them a place to sleep and a nice dinner and see how they could help them further. So they've been having a short conversation here, Bill and Jim. And I won't go through all this. I will. Maybe you'll enjoy this. Bill smiled and picked up the glass. I'll drink to that. He took a sip of bourbon and gestured at the property with a sweep of his hand. See, that's one of those things. I like wild turkey, so I stick bourbon in here and wild turkey just every now and then. People who know me go, that's what Steve did. So he gestured at the property with a sweep of his hand. You have a beautiful setup here. Christian said you saw all this coming. Jim shrugged. Well, I was afraid something was going to happen. I didn't know what it would be, but the economy, the corruption in the government, international problems, and our own societal troubles here at home, I wanted to separate and protect my family from whatever came down the road. I wanted to be self-sufficient, not have to rely on outside providers, especially the government. I decided to prepare for an EMP because I figured if we were prepared for that, we'd be prepared for anything. And look what we got. Well, that's what they got, an EMP, which is also, well, more than that. They got a CME. But that is a very real possibility with us, too. But the reason that I wrote that and read it now is to bring to mind the importance of preparing not from fear, but from a position of responsibility and foresight, if that makes sense. Okay? You see what is going on around you. You understand and you accept what that may manifest as, what can happen as a result of this, and then you have a choice. Do you just grumble and groan? Or do you prepare? Do you position yourself so if something terrible happens, you're going to be able not just to survive, but to continue living with a quality of life that makes living worth living? Okay? And then if you decide to prepare, there are two directions to go. You see, in life has many forks in the road, doesn't it? And that is, one, you can let it consume you and almost sacrifice today because of a fear of tomorrow. Or you can integrate that. And this is what I was talking about before. One of the basic premises of integrative preparedness is that everything we do should not just prepare us for a future calamity, but improve the quality of our life today. A short example, for instance, and I've used this many times before, that when corn goes on sale for 29 cents a can at the grocery store, I don't buy 10, I buy 400. Okay, so we have stocked up against, and that and everything else, pasta and rice and beans and salsa, everything, everything that you eat. So that's how we build our food stores, and we don't buy a bunch of, dehydrated junk that, tastes questionable, so that when you're eating it, you're surviving. I like to eat stuff that when I eat it, I know I'm living. So not only are we prepared then, we have that if we need it someday, but every time we need corn, we go to where we store the corn and we eat a 29-cent can of corn, not a $1.79 can of corn. And you see, that's how that helps us now. So anyway, when people get to that point of deciding how they're going to approach preparedness, there are a couple of different major ways. There's all sorts of ways in between. I mean, there's probably as many ways as there are people doing it themselves, but you can either do it out of fear, just knowing that something's going to happen any day, and I've known people like that. It consumes their life. It consumes them, and in some cases has caused family problems, and I think in some cases has come, if not actually, but come close to divorce. If one person is all about it and lets themselves, lets a concern become a paranoia, and the other, well, that's difficult for the other people, All of a sudden, no, we can't do this activity because we've got to buy more rice. We can't do that. No, son, you can't play hockey because I'm not going to spend that money on equipment for hockey. I need to buy more beans. You see, that's that's a dangerous road to go down. And there needs to be a balance. The Bible says for everything there's a season. And, well, I'll leave that there. But there has to be a balance. And you can't, sacrifice. And I know the old saying of, delayed gratification, and that's good. I mean, that means you don't go out and spend all of your money today, right? You don't go out and spend everything today, which makes you poor tomorrow. But you also, do what you want to do, what's right for you. But I've just seen too many people just consumed by a fear that they do sacrifice a quality of life today while they're trying to protect against what may come down the road. And I think that that's unhealthy, and I think it's destructive, not just to families, but to an individual. Okay, so what I try to promote, what I preach is positive preparedness, is that everything you do, well, not everything, okay? We went out for ice cream the other night. I don't know how that applies to preparedness, right? Except that it made my family happy. And it made me happy too. Hot fudge sundae, I can't beat that. But it builds the group. It builds happiness in the group. I could make a case for that. But you want to prepare in a positive way so that everything that you're doing makes you feel better, not feeds into a fear or just makes you less afraid. Prepping, if it consumes a person, if it stems from paranoia, it's kind of like money. They say, if money is what makes you happy, you're never going to be happy because you're always going to want more. And it's the same with preparedness. And I see this with so many of what I call the gear steers. You got to have more gear. Got to have another this. I got a good knife, but I need a better one. I got to have this $200 knife, or I've got to have this different bug out bag. I got to have another rifle. Got to have, all this kind of things. And I caution against that. So what you're doing should make you feel good. It should make you feel more prepared because it should be making you more prepared, right? But it should be a positive thing. And it should be a positive thing that the whole family can be a part of. I'll again reference Lee down there over there at Cold War Prepper. He said during his broadcast last night about how he and his wife were doing something. Okay, that shows it's not just him. He's not out there by himself trying to prep up, and but she understands it. So it means that either she understood it on her own, or he was able to explain it. And she trusted him enough because of the kind of person he is to get on board. Okay, so they're able to work it as a team. I know so many people whose spouses are not, and you'll see them in the comments here too, whose spouses are not on board. And I know that can be difficult. I also know that it has a lot to do with how you present it. Okay, and if it's presented from a position of, look, we're going to be responsible. This is responsible. Taking, making sure that we take that responsibility for our life, for our survival, for our continued, quality of life. We're going to do that. Then I think you can pretty much get everybody on board. And everything that you do, think about, can it be used not just in case of the big collapse, but how is it going to improve my life today? Okay, you grow a garden, that's certainly going to help if everything falls apart. But right today, it gives you fruits and vegetables that taste a lot better than what you buy at the store, right? Plus, you're developing a skill. Plus, gardening, is relaxful. Is relaxful a word? Is relaxing. It's relaxing. It gets you outside. It gets you out in God's air and sunshine. You are producing your own food, and boy, there's nothing better than that. That's just an example, If you enjoy shooting, it's going to help you in the future. It's a good, hobby now. All sorts of things. I don't have to run down the whole road. You find your own what's right for you. But I just wanted to make that kind of point, is that approach this from a positive aspect so that you're feeling good all the time, not frightened all the time. Okay? You're not trying to tamp down that fear. You're adding to your feeling of well-being and preparedness in preparing for and providing a high quality of life for yourself and your family and others, as they did in Stonemont, down the road. So I hope that made some sense. Again, I'll let you know, as always, this was brought to you by my books, the Stonemont series. The way to get them is they're all down there. There are links down below in the information section and a pinned comment. I'm getting better at remembering to put the pinned comment down there. The Reversion, the Revival, the Renewal, and Appeal to Heaven. And the last one that Lee did last night, The Blessings of Freedom. People tell me they like them. You might too. And there's a way to get them. You can order them from Amazon down there, either in paperback or Kindle, or you can get paperbacks autographed from me. It takes longer to get them from me, but I'll get them to you as soon as I do. And with that, I'm going to sign off. I'll talk more about T-shirts maybe in the next one. A lot of people asking about T-shirts. But remember, we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. But just like we want to live well tomorrow, we want to feel good about what we're doing today. We're not meant to have burdened hearts and spirits filled with fear. We're supposed to address these things in life positively and with some strength. Okay? All right. Y'all have a great day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.